Hello, here I am going to discuss about Haldane effect. In my last video I have already discussed about Bohr effect, and Bohr effect which actually tells about the internal respiration, that is which occurs the gaseous exchange, means carbon dioxide exchange from the tissue level, and it promotes the carbon dioxide transport from tissue to the lungs. But the Haldane effect, which is opposite to the Bohr effect, and Haldane effect, it tells about the exchange of oxygen at the lungs side, means in the external respiration, and it promotes the transport of oxygen from lungs to the tissues. Okay, so let's start the Haldane effect. Suppose that this is the lungs. Okay, so inside the lungs, with the inspiration, there is the entering of oxygen, and which increase the partial pressure of oxygen. Okay, so with the increasing of partial pressure of oxygen, the oxygen, it combines with hemoglobin and it forms oxyhemoglobin. So at the lungs side, there is the more oxygen, so partial pressure of oxygen is more, and the partial pressure of carbon dioxide which is low here. That's why oxygen which react with hemoglobin and it forms oxyhemoglobin, which act as strong acid. Okay, and this strong acid here from oxyhemoglobin, H plus ion is releasing. So more and more H plus ion are released from the oxyhemoglobin, and this H plus ion, it combines with the bicarbonate ion, HCO3 ion. Okay, and it forms carbonic acid, H2CO3, and carbonic acid which is unstable and which readily dissociate into H2O, water, and carbon dioxide. Okay, so at the lungs level, the partial pressure of oxygen is more. That's why oxygen which is combined with the hemoglobin, it forms oxyhemoglobin. Oxyhemoglobin which behave or which act as a strong acid. That's why oxyhemoglobin release more and more H plus ion, and H plus ion which react with bicarbonate ion present in plasma or the blood, and which produce carbonic acid, H2CO3. So this carbonic acid which dissociate into water and carbon dioxide. That it means that here the affinity in between carbon dioxide and hemoglobin is decreasing here. It means that the affinity of, this is the cross mark, means affinity is decreasing here. So the affinity of carbon dioxide and hemoglobin is decreasing here, and this is known as the Haldane effect. So more and more carbon dioxide are produced from carba-aminohemoglobin. So more and more carbon dioxide are produced by the carba-aminohemoglobin, and it means that hemoglobin which more and more hemoglobin which fuse with oxygen or bind with oxygen. Okay, and this is known as the Haldane effect. So here the graph, the oxygen dissociation curve. Suppose that this is the normal oxygen dissociation curve. Here hemoglobin which readily bind with oxygen. So affinity is increasing in between oxygen and the hemoglobin. That's why the curve which shifted to left, it shifted to left. But in case of Bohr effect, which tells about the affinity in between oxygen and hemoglobin, okay, oxygen and hemoglobin. So according to Haldane effect, the affinity of oxygen and hemoglobin which decreasing in case of Bohr effect, okay. But in case of Haldane effect, the affinity of carbon dioxide and hemoglobin which decreasing here, but the affinity of hemoglobin and oxygen is increasing here. In case of Bohr effect, which tells about the internal respiration at the tissue site, but the Haldane effect which tells about the gaseous exchange or the oxygen exchange at the lungs level or at the external respiration. So this is whole about of the Haldane effect. So due to the Haldane effect, the graph which shifted to left side because the affinity is increasing hemoglobin and oxygen. So this is whole about of the Haldane effect. Thank you for watching.